July 26, 1981. Brooklyn, New York. The summer heat outside is suffocating, but deep inside a dimly lit, smoke-filled basement in Brooklyn, the air is freezing with an entirely different kind of tension. The room smells of stale espresso, cheap cologne, and the heavy, metallic scent of impending violence. FBI Special Agent Joseph Pistone sits at a wooden table alongside seasoned, cold-blooded Mafia hitmen. They are not discussing business, they are actively plotting a murder. Hidden beneath Pistone's shirt, secured by layers of medical tape that pull uncomfortably at his skin, is a recording device. The tape turns silently, capturing his voice as he leans forward and speaks the words that will seal a man's fate. "I'll do the hit." The intended target is Anthony Bruno Indelicato. He is not a nameless mobster on a movie screen. He is a real human being, a man with a mother, a family, and a life. Pistone has exactly 72 hours to pull the trigger and commit this first-degree murder. If he hesitates, if he refuses, he risks dismantling 6 grueling, terrifying years of the deepest, most dangerous undercover operation in the entire history of global law enforcement. The man sitting directly to his left, clapping him on the shoulder, is Benjamin Lefty Ruggiero. Lefty is a hardened, lifelong enforcer who has murdered 26 people with his own hands, yet he looks at Pistone with genuine warmth and affectionately calls him his son. Across the table sits their powerful captain, Dominic Sonny Black Napolitano. Sonny Black has personally elevated Pistone from a nameless street-level associate to an untouchable, respected Mafia earner commanding his own highly profitable crew. In exactly 3 weeks, the Bonanno crime family leadership is going to officially induct him into their ranks. In a secret blood oath ceremony, he will become a made man, the very first and only FBI agent in history to be fully initiated into the American Cosa Nostra. But here is the terrifying, explosive reality that absolutely no one in that basement knows. The FBI has unilaterally decided to pull Pistone out of the shadows. Not next week, not tomorrow, today. This means that within a matter of hours, the illusion will shatter. Every single ruthless, paranoid killer in this room is going to discover that the loyal brother they trusted with their lives, their illicit fortunes, and their darkest secrets is actually a federal agent. Within 30 days, 2 of the men currently laughing at this table will be brutally executed by their own family for their catastrophic failure of judgment. One will have his hands severed from his lifeless body as a gruesome warning to others. And a $500,000 assassination contract will be placed on Pistone's head, a massive underworld bounty that remains active and uncollected to this very day. How did one ordinary man infiltrate the most impenetrable, fiercely guarded criminal syndicate on Earth? How did he survive without his mind snapping in half? And why, even decades later on their deathbeds, did the men he sent to a maximum security prison absolutely refuse to forgive his betrayal? To understand the sheer, overwhelming magnitude of this deception, we have to rewind the clock to the exact day Joseph Pistone ceased to exist. September 15, 1976. The erasure. Joseph Pistone sits perfectly still in a sterile, windowless government office in Washington, D.C., signing a thick stack of classified documents that legally, systematically erase him from the face of the earth. With every stroke of his pen, the FBI strips away his identity. They revoke his social security number, cancel his life insurance, suspend his driver's license, and bury every single shred of paper proving he ever lived a normal life. In 12 hours, his wife, Maggie, will sit down at their kitchen table in New Jersey with their 3 young daughters. She will have to look into their eyes and lie, telling them that their father is going away on a long, complicated business trip. Because where Pistone is going, there are no safety nets. One slipped word in his sleep, one misplaced glance at a passing police car, or one wrong name spoken in a moment of exhaustion means a bullet to the back of the head. And the FBI has already warned him. If he is compromised, they will not be able to recover his body. They are sending him into the belly of the New York Mafia with nothing but a fake name, a fabricated backstory, and his own wits. At the time, this mission is considered practically suicidal. The 5 families of New York, the Bonannos, the Colombos, the Gambinos, the Genoveses, and the Luchases, are operating at the absolute peak of their historic power. They completely control $50 billion in illegal annual revenue. They govern the shipping ports, the labor unions, the garbage collection, the concrete industry, and the garment district. They are protected by omerta, an ancient, blood-soaked code of silence imported from Sicily that has never once been broken from the inside. The last undercover law enforcement agent who tried to infiltrate a major crew lasted exactly 6 days before his body was found scattered across 3 different boroughs in black plastic garbage bags. But Joseph Pistone has a distinct, irreplaceable advantage. He wasn't raised in a quiet, wealthy suburb. He grew up in the gritty, working-class neighborhoods of Paterson, New Jersey, serving drinks in his father's local bar to the very kind of mobsters he is now hunting. He knows their language, their posture, their unwritten rules. He knows that wearing a pinky ring is mandatory for respect, but wearing a flashy, ostentatious one makes you look like a desperate federal informant trying too hard to fit in. He knows that ordering a cappuccino after dinner immediately marks you as a cop because real Italians only drink espresso at night. He knows that Tuesday meetings are strictly for planning murders, and Thursday meetings are exclusively for collecting extortion money. But knowing Mafia trivia and actually surviving inside a locked room full of heavily armed sociopaths are 2 entirely different games. The mob is deeply paranoid. What specific, terrifying test would they use to verify his identity in the crucial first 48 hours? The FBI's preparation for this infiltration borders on the obsessive. The ghost they create is named Donnie Brasco. Donnie is born in April 1939 in Brooklyn. His fictional backstory is airtight. He is an orphan, raised by a hardened criminal uncle in Miami who taught him from a young age how to crack complex safes. The Bureau goes to astonishing lengths to make Donnie real. They manufacture a deeply buried arrest record in California, showing that he beat federal racketeering charges in 1974 on a legal technicality. This is the exact kind of victory that proves to the mob you have excellent lawyers, deep pockets, and most importantly, you know how to keep your mouth shut under pressure. The FBI deposits $50,000 in small, unmarked, non-sequential bills across 7 different bank accounts, carefully structuring the transactions over months to avoid triggering federal reporting alerts. They rent Donnie a dismal, depressing 1-bedroom apartment on Mulberry Street in the heart of Little Italy. The toilet barely flushes, and the antique radiator clangs loudly all night. This is intentional. Real, independent jewel thieves don't live in luxury penthouses. They live quietly in the shadows, avoiding IRS attention. Pistone begins his grueling transformation. He memorizes dense diamond terminology until he literally dreams in carats, cuts, and clarity grades. He perfects his New Jersey accent, smoothing out the edges so it says, "I grew up connected," not, "I studied mob vernacular at the FBI Academy." He spends hundreds of hours learning to pick complex padlocks blindfolded, because the character of Donnie Brasco wouldn't fumble nervously with lockpicks like an amateur when a job was on the line. Meanwhile, his wife and 3 daughters, ages 8, 11, and 14, pack up their family home in total darkness. The FBI relocates them to a quiet neighborhood in Virginia under assumed names. The girls will have to lie to their new teachers and friends, claiming their father is a traveling salesman constantly on the road. Pistone knows he might not see them for 6 to 8 months at a time, and when he does, it will only be for highly secure, supervised weekend visits in sterile hotel rooms. From this moment forward, Joe Pistone, the family man, is dead. There is only Donnie Brasco, a lone wolf, highly skilled jewel thief with deep connections in Miami and California, looking to fence stolen, untraceable diamonds through the powerful New York mob. September 28, 1976. The first night, Donnie walks into Carmelo's bar on Mulberry Street. The air inside is thick with cigarette smoke and whispered conversations that stop the moment the door opens. Donnie is wearing $30,000 in fake gold chains and projecting an aura of absolute, unwavering confidence. He knows that predators can smell fear, so he refuses to emit any. The bartender is a Colombo crime family associate known as Joey Dogs. Joey is a gatekeeper. His specific job is to scrutinize every single stranger who walks through the door and report back to his captain. Pistone sits down at the sticky wooden bar and orders a Cutty Sark neat. He doesn't order a generic scotch. He specifically demands Cutty Sark, because that is exactly the brand that connected, respected guys from the Jersey neighborhoods drink. He casually pulls a thick roll of $500 from his pocket and drops it heavily onto the bar counter. He peels off a bill, then counts the remaining cash twice. Wise guys always count their money twice. It shows they trust no one. He pays for his drink and casually mentions to Joey that he is an independent jewel thief looking for serious friends who appreciate quality, untraceable stones. Joey Dogs stops wiping the counter. He stares at Donnie. He studies the stranger's face, his clothes, the way he holds his glass. He scrutinizes him for 17 agonizing seconds that to Pistone's racing heart feel like 17 long years. Finally, Joey speaks the words that will alter the course of Mafia history. "There's a guy you should meet. Lefty Ruggiero." Benjamin "Lefty Two Guns" Ruggiero is a neighborhood legend, though a tragic one. He has personally murdered 26 men for the Bonanno family. He earned his famous nickname not from being naturally left-handed, but from a horribly botched hit in 1962 when a target's bodyguard shot him twice in the left arm, shattering the bone and leaving it permanently, stiffly crooked. Yet, at 51 years old, despite 3 decades of absolute, unquestioning loyalty and 26 bleeding bodies to his name, Lefty is miserable. He has never earned his button. He has never been formally made into the inner circle. This perceived disrespect burns him with bitter resentment daily, especially as he watches younger, less experienced killers walk past him in the social clubs without showing the proper reverence. Lefty is a dangerous, aging predator desperately looking for a protege, someone he can mold, someone who will finally bring him respect and money. When Lefty finally sits down at the bar with Donnie a few days later, he doesn't smile. He immediately locks his eyes onto the diamond ring shining on Donnie's finger. Something is wrong. Real wrong. The ring looks incredibly expensive at first glance, but Lefty has spent his life fencing stolen jewelry. He notices that the gold band is 14 karat, not 18. No self-respecting, high-end jewel thief wears 14 karat gold. It's a massive red flag, akin to a master surgeon showing up to an operating room with a rusty kitchen knife. Lefty's eyes go completely dead, and his right hand slowly, deliberately moves toward the .38 caliber revolver, tucked securely into his waistband. "Where'd you get this ring, Donnie?" Pistone's response in this fraction of a second saves his life. He uses a stroke of pure, aggressive psychological genius. A normal undercover cop would instinctively defend their cover story, insisting the ring was real to prove their worth. Instead, Pistone attacks the ring. "That piece of shut?" Donnie scoffs, his voice dripping with arrogance. "I won it in a poker game from some absolute mook down in Miami. Look closer, Lefty. The diamond is a cubic zirconia. It's a complete fake, maybe worth $200 on a good day." Donnie casually takes the ring off and tosses it onto the bar like it's worthless garbage. "I wear it to mark suckers. Anyone who looks at that rock and thinks it's real doesn't know a damn thing about diamonds. They're an easy mark." Lefty's hand slowly relaxes and falls away from his gun. The psychological maneuver worked flawlessly. This kid just openly, proudly admitted to wearing fake jewelry. No undercover federal agent in the world would ever confess to being a fraud to a Mafia enforcer. They would defend their cover to the death. Lefty bursts into genuine, raspy laughter. "You got balls, kid. I'll give you that. Wearing fake ice around made guys." But Lefty is a survivor, and he has one more crucial test. He leans in close. "Tell me about Miami." This is the real lethal trap. When cops or civilians describe cities, they talk like tourists. They mention famous landmarks, popular restaurants, the weather, and street names. But when hardened criminals describe cities, they map them through crime. They talk about which specific crews control the shipping docks, which underground bars you use to fence stolen goods, and which local judges have a reputation for taking bribes. For 7 uninterrupted minutes, Pistone talks. He talks about Tampa Tony's massive chop shop operation. He talks in detail about the ruthless Cuban crews running cocaine shipments through the marinas in Key West. He complains bitterly about how Hurricane Elsa completely ruined the stolen car pipeline to South America for 3 solid months. It is all a total, elaborate fabrication built entirely from classified DEA and FBI intelligence reports. But Pistone sells it with the casual, exhausted frustration of a real, working criminal. Lefty is utterly sold. He signals the bartender with a flick of his wrist. "Joey, get my friend here a real drink." If you are finding this deep dive into the absolute darkest, most dangerous undercover operation in history captivating, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Your support is absolutely vital in helping this documentary content reach more people who love true stories of espionage, psychology, and history. Let us continue into the darkness. The rest of the patrons in the bar notice the gesture. In this world, when Lefty Ruggiero buys you a drink, you are either under his absolute protection or you are about to be quietly murdered. Which one applies to Donnie becomes crystal clear with Lefty's next fateful words. "You know what your real problem is, Donnie? You got no friends in New York? Lucky for you, I'm gonna fix that." The friendship develops through months of calculated, terrifying subservience. Pistone understands that he must make himself indispensable, yet utterly unthreatening to Lefty's fragile ego. Donnie drives Lefty around Brooklyn to collect late loan shark payments. Donnie sits quietly in the idling car with the engine running, staring blankly ahead while Lefty drags a terrified debtor into a brick alleyway and systematically breaks the man's thumbs with a steel mechanic's hammer. Donnie never flinches at the screams. He never judges. When Lefty gets back into the passenger seat, panting and sweating, Donnie simply hands him a clean, damp towel to wipe the blood off his hands. When Lefty is depressed and complains for 3 hours about his son's devastating heroin addiction, Donnie just drives and listens, playing the role of the loyal confidant. When Lefty makes a disastrous bet and urgently needs $3,000 to cover a gambling debt that could get him murdered by his own superiors, Donnie produces the cash in 2 hours, asking 0 questions. Every single gesture builds absolute, unbreakable trust. But in the Mafia, every favor creates a debt, and every debt creates immense psychological leverage. By December 1977, Lefty brings Donnie into the back room of a club and makes it official. "You're with me now," he tells Donnie, pointing a finger at his chest. "That means you earn, I earn. You FK up, I die. You rat to the cops, I kill you first, and then I die. Understand?" The FBI finally has exactly what they dreamed of, an invisible ghost operating inside the Bonanno crime family. But the men in suits sitting safely in Washington, D.C. do not understand the devastating psychological toll this is taking on their agent on the ground. Lefty introduces Donnie to Dominic "Sonny Black" Napolitano, a charismatic, utterly ruthless rising star who effectively runs half of the illegal rackets in Brooklyn. By early 1978, Donnie Brasco is no longer just standing in the corner observing the Mafia, he is actively, aggressively running it. He operates illegal, high-stakes bookmaking rings handling millions in Super Bowl bets. He manages the logistics for moving massive quantities of stolen goods. He operates the King's Court nightclub down in Miami, a front that launders millions of dollars annually, while hidden FBI cameras secretly record every handshake, every cash drop, and every whispered threat. But the psychological fracture within Joseph Pistone is widening into an abyss. Living 2 completely different, diametrically opposed lives 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, is destroying his mind. The stress manifests in terrifying ways. One afternoon, while assisting Lefty in torturing a man for unpaid debts, Pistone catches himself humming his youngest daughter's favorite cartoon theme song. Lefty looks at him strangely, and Pistone has to quickly cover it up by claiming it's an obscure old Frank Sinatra B-side. During his incredibly rare, brief visits home to his real family in Virginia, the damage is obvious. His wife Maggie barely recognizes the man sitting at her dinner table. He has gained 30 pounds from the mandatory, heavy Italian dinners eaten every single night at the social clubs. He no longer speaks like a polite federal agent. He speaks in the clipped, aggressive, expletive-laden rhythms of a Brooklyn mobster. He reflexively, involuntarily checks over his shoulder every few seconds, constantly scanning the room for assassins. He begins to dream in Donnie's voice. He wakes up in cold sweats in the middle of the night, staring at the ceiling, genuinely forgetting his real name for terrifying 30-second intervals. The FBI psychiatrist assigned to monitor him notes severe, progressive identity dissociation. Joe Pistone, the family man, drinks his coffee black. Donnie Brasco, the mobster, takes his with 3 sugars. The line between the dedicated cop and the hardened criminal is blurring into total nothingness. In March 1979, the ultimate undercover nightmare happens. Sonny Black calls Donnie into a private room, locks the door, pours 2 espressos, and says, "My FBI guy says there's a rat in our crew." Pistone's blood freezes in his veins. Sonny Black has successfully corrupted federal agents and placed them on his payroll. If this mole identifies Pistone, he will be dragged to a basement, tortured with blowtorches for days, and killed. Sonny takes a sip of his coffee and continues, "Someone is feeding the feds highly classified info about our hijacking routes. We lost 3 trucks last month." This is Pistone's own intelligence being fed right back to him. He cannot show a single ounce of panic. Ice cold, maintaining absolute eye contact, Pistone deflects. He subtly points the blame toward Anthony Mira, a universally disliked, erratic soldier in their own crew who had knowledge of the routes. Within a week, Mira vanishes, relocated to Florida in utter disgrace, stripped of his earning power. Pistone has just saved his own life, but the moral cost is heavy. He had to destroy an innocent within the context of the mob man's reputation to survive. But the tension inside the family is about to explode into open, bloody warfare. By early 1981, the Bonanno family violently splits into 2 warring factions, vying for absolute control: Sonny Black's loyalists and a heavily armed rebel group known as the 3 Capos, led by Alphonse "Sonny Red" Indelicato. The boiling point arrives on May 5, 1981. The 3 Capos walk into a Brooklyn social club for what they are explicitly told is a peaceful, commission-sanctioned sit-down to resolve their differences. It is a trap. Men armed with pump-action shotguns step out from behind a false wall. The shooting lasts exactly 8 seconds. The violence is deafening and absolute. Sonny Red takes 2 blasts directly to the chest. The other 2 capos are slaughtered as they try to scramble out a back window. Their bodies are wrapped in canvas, thrown into the trunk of a car, and buried deep in a Queens construction site, not to be found by authorities for 23 years. Sonny Black calls Lefty from a secure payphone. "The trouble's over. We won." Because of this decisive, brutal victory, Sonny Black is promoted to the highest echelons of the family. And he has a massive reward for the man who has stood by his crew through the war and generated millions of dollars. Lefty pulls Donnie aside in the club, beaming with paternal pride. "I talked to Sonny Black. You're getting straightened out, Donnie. You're going to be a made man. You earned it." For the FBI directors in Washington, this is the holy grail of law enforcement. An active agent is about to be invited inside the sacred, highly guarded induction ceremony. But for Joseph Pistone, the human being, it is an absolute death sentence. Because to become a made man, you cannot simply pay a fee. You must make your bones. You must kill a human being for the family to prove your ultimate loyalty. The target is formally assigned: Anthony Bruno Indelicato, the son of the murdered rebel leader, Sonny Red. Bruno is not marked for death for anything he personally did. He is marked purely to eliminate a bloodline that might one day seek revenge. Sonny Black sits Donnie down and gives the order. "Thursday night, you do the hit." Lefty provides the gun and the getaway car. Pistone knows the reality of his situation. Refusing the hit means immediate execution for insubordination. Accepting the hit means committing first-degree murder, crossing a moral and legal line from which he can never, ever return. He plays for time. He claims he needs a few days to study Bruno's movements, to ensure the hit goes smoothly without police interference. Sonny Black agrees to the delay, but gives him a hard, unforgiving deadline: July 26th. Do it or die. On the evening of July 26, 1981, Pistone does not show up to the basement meeting. He does not go to the social club. Instead, he sits in a sterile, highly secured Manhattan FBI office surrounded by armed federal agents. The Justice Department has made the agonizing call: Operation Sun Apple is over. They cannot, under any circumstances, allow a federal agent to participate in a murder. At exactly 8 p.m., a federal prosecutor picks up a phone and dials the number to Sonny Black's social club. Dominic Napolitano, this is Assistant U.S. Attorney Barbara Jones. The man you have known for the last 6 years as Donnie Brasco is Special Agent Joseph Pistone of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Federal agents are currently en route to arrest you. The phone line goes dead silent. For 17 agonizing seconds, there is nothing but the faint crackle of static. Finally, Sonny Black breathes one single devastated word into the receiver: motherfucker. Simultaneously, heavily armed FBI tactical agents kick down the door to Lefty Ruggiero's apartment. Lefty's wife would later tell investigators that when the agents showed her husband the badge and explained who Donnie really was, Lefty went completely pale. He sat heavily on the edge of his bed, staring at the floor, and whispered over and over, "Donnie was my friend. Donnie was my friend. How could he do this?" By midnight, the FBI executes a massive sweep, arresting 19 high-ranking Bonanno members. The entire leadership structure of the family collapses in a matter of 6 hours. But the real destruction inflicted by Donnie Brasco is psychological. The Mafia's ancient, mythical security, its sacred blood oaths, and its terrifying omerta had utterly failed to detect a cop sitting at their dinner tables, kissing their wives' cheeks, and counting their money for 2,190 days. The sheer, unadulterated paranoia that Donnie Brasco unleashed would tear the American Mafia apart from the inside out for decades to come. If Donnie, the best earner and the most loyal friend, was a cop, who else was wearing a wire? Who else was a ghost? But the Mafia demands a blood price for humiliation. On August 17, 1981, Sonny Black Napolitano parks his Cadillac outside a safe house in Staten Island. Before he walks to the door, he takes off his gold Rolex and his diamond pinky ring, handing them to an associate. "Give these to my wife," he says quietly. He walks into the house knowing he will never walk out. The Mafia Commission had convened and ruled that whoever vouched for Donnie Brasco had to die to cleanse the family's honor. Sonny doesn't run. He doesn't beg for his life. When he faces his executioners in the basement, he simply says, "I knew this day was coming since that phone call." They shoot him 3 times in the back of the head, sever his hands with a meat cleaver, to signify that he introduced a traitor to the family, and dump his remains in a bay. Lefty Ruggiero only escapes the exact same brutal fate, because the FBI arrests him on the street while he is walking to his own execution. In prison, despite facing 20 years behind bars, Lefty refuses to flip. He refuses to cooperate with the government. He maintains the code of silence. He paces his small cell, muttering to anyone who will listen, "He was like my son. I taught him everything. How could a son betray his father?" At his federal trial, Lefty stares across the courtroom at Pistone through thick, bulletproof glass. The room is silent. Lefty simply mouths 2 words, "Why, Donnie?" Pistone looks away. Lefty dies of aggressive lung cancer in a prison hospital, taking his oath to the grave, never once forgiving the betrayal. Joseph Pistone vanished into a carefully constructed, lonely non-existence. After dismantling an empire, the FBI gave him a $500 bonus check, a truly insulting, bureaucratic sum for risking his life for 6 years. A $500,000 Mafia bounty remains active on his head to this day. He spent the next 30 years of his life carrying a loaded firearm everywhere he went, relocating his family constantly, forever looking over his shoulder for the ghost of Sonny Black. When asked years later by a journalist about the deep moral complexity of his life, Pistone gave an answer that perfectly, tragically captures the reality of deep cover work. "Lefty was a brutal, ruthless murderer who killed a lot of people. I know that. But for 6 years, he was also my closest, most loyal friend. Both of those things are entirely true. That is what this job does to you." In the end, Joseph Pistone didn't just put mobsters in federal prison. He proved something that terrifies the Mafia far more than any police raid or wiretap ever could. He proved that their greatest historical strength, the sacred, unbreakable bond of family and brotherhood, could be expertly, surgically weaponized to destroy them from the inside out.